Oh my gosh. It's time for the show. Where is everybody? Hi there. I'm Kermit the Frog, and we're almost ready. Fonzie? Gonzo? Piggy?
Last call for the Walt Disney World Railroad, now departing for a grand circle tour around the Magic Kingdom. Stopping at Main Street Station. Last call. Board?
That's why I'm a router for me computer. Everybody needs a friend.
What? WDW Radio, your information station.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to the WDW Radio Show, your Walt Disney World information station. I am your host, Lou Mongello, and this is show number 201 for the week of December 19th, 2010. This week, we'll take a closer look at the history, story, and details of a restaurant in Walt Disney World that many people consider to be an attraction in itself. Our DSI, Disney Scene Investigation, takes us to stage 14 in Disney's Hollywood Studios and back in time as we grab some popcorn, hang a speaker on our convertible, and tune in to the Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater. I'll have just a few announcements and play some of your voicemails at the end of the show, so sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show.
Drive away your worries and cares at this drive-in theater, where you will see the finest motion pictures of all time, soon to be released. Drama, comedy, adventure, excitement, something for everyone. Here's a brief glimpse of some of the truly fine pictures we've scheduled in the near future.
Attack of the 50-foot woman, incredibly huge, with incredible desires for love and vengeance.
I always talk about eating in Walt Disney World as dining experiences, many times because of the food, the location, the ambiance, the decor, sometimes even because of the cast members themselves. And one location in Walt Disney World that affords guests a unique lunch or dinner that truly is an experience because it encapsulates all of those elements and more can be found over at Disney's Hollywood Studios. And if you're looking for a meal and a show inside the parks, you may want to try the Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater. And of course, restaurants are more than just about the food. They're about the details and the story. So I thought it would be fun to take a closer look inside one of these restaurants. And joining me on this DSI, Disney Scene Investigation, is Nate Parrish. He is the host of Wedway Radio, the co-host of Beta Mouse. He's also a former Walt Disney World cast member who worked at Sci-Fi. So, Nate, I'm psyched to have you on. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Wedway and Beta Mouse, so I'm happy
awesome.
So, tell me a little bit about you working at Walt Disney World. We know you were a college program guy, or you just sort of, packed up your bags and moved down to Orlando?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I applied for the college program in 1996 and I was really hoping to get the Jungle Cruise. That was really what I wanted. So I told them that, but then they looked at my resume and noticed that I'd worked at restaurants for the past 4 years, and gave me a position in full service restaurants. And I had no idea what I was going to get. Actually, I'm not sure if they still do it like this, but you get down there on college program and you find out like the first day what your location is. And I opened my folder and it said Sci-Fi, and I loved the Sci-Fi. I'd been there before 2 times with my family, and I saw that and I was very excited. So I ended up at the Sci-Fi there, worked there in the fall of 96. And then I stayed on, actually, and I worked there into 1997. So had a great experience there.
Yeah, you were probably happy it didn't say something like Captain Jackson. You're like, all right, sci-fi is awesome. So what did you do at Sci-Fi? Were you front of the house, back of the house, a little bit of both?
Yeah, well, my experience had always been waiting tables. I'd worked at, local chain restaurants and things like that here in Kansas City. And but you can't wait tables if you're on college program because they take the rent out of your check. So I end up hosting, which is not a bad gig. But hosting is great because you got like 7 or 8 different positions. You don't end up doing the same thing all day. You can be an outdoor greeter, an indoor greeter, a seater, a table assigner. Do all sorts of jobs, like 7 or 8 different jobs. Goes by really fast, and you have a great time dealing with guests. And so I put on the costume there every day for about a year, and worked at the Sci-Fi. And probably the most interesting part of the costume is that the optional part of working there, if you are a host, is you can choose to wear roller skates. So, being 6'4", which I am, I said, why not add 2 or 3 extra inches and wear roller skates? And so, for many people, I was very imposing as I seated them, but always with a smile.
Yeah, I feel your pain. I have the same problem with, even finding a pair of skates that fit is a lot. So,
yeah, it's quite fun. Actually, I hadn't skated since I was, in like 2nd grade at your school skating party, and so, but it's like riding a bike. You put them back on, you know exactly how to skate. After a couple hours anyway, and there's always things you can guide yourself down the hallway with your hands. Learn how to skate backwards so I could talk to people while I was going. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, I had some pretty harrowing roller rink experiences in my youth, so I try not to talk about or put skates on anymore.
A little hokey pokey accident there.
Yeah. But we should explain to people maybe who have never been to Sci-Fi, the whole idea of why are they wearing roller skates at this restaurant. I think people may not realize that this is very much sort of a throwback kind of restaurant where you're supposed to be at this sort of drive-in theater and there's car hops bringing you food. And we'll talk about the atmosphere and all that. Of course, we all probably have to explain to some of the younger listeners what a drive-in theater really is, because I think a lot of people don't know something that was super, super popular back in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, and so drive-ins were super popular, like you said. Yeah, you saw drive-ins in popping up around the country as early as 1933, and so you had people were owning cars in the 20s and 30s, and so some lucky fellow came up with some idea of, hey, let's have people come see movies in cars, and so in the 1930s you see a few drive-ins spring up, and then in post-war America, after World War II, you really see drive-ins become really a part of our culture. After World War II, you had about 155, and then by the 1950s, you had 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 drive-ins across the country, and this is where the whole family would sit in the car and go and see a film. And I think the height, I was reading on this, and I think the height of drive-in theaters was really 1958, and there were actually 5,000 drive-ins in America. And to give you an example, or to give you a little, how many that really was, there was 12,000 indoor theaters and 5,000 drive-in theaters. Yeah, so I mean, almost half as many theaters were actually drive-in theaters, and today there's less than 1,000 left, but that was just an experience for a lot of people that a lot of people share. And you can see this in movies. You go see movies like, I'm trying to think of The Outsiders. Mm-hmm. They go to the drive-in there, and lots of different films have captured that feel of going. Grease is another one that you see them go to the drive-in, but it's I don't know
why Pee-wee's Big Adventure is the one that came up in my mind first. So.
I wasn't going to go there, but now you have yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I grew up in New Jersey in the 70s, and we had a couple of them within 15, 20 minutes of my house. And I remember going, with family and friends, and it was sort of the night out. You pulled in, exactly. You walked up to the concession stand, and you hung that speaker on your car window. And that was it. And that was your movie experience. Obviously, something very different than what you get in a traditional theater. So I think for young people, this is something new they're being introduced to. at the studios, while older people get to sort of relive their youth, and we'll talk about some of those B movies that they get to see in this make-believe theater. We were talking offline about sort of everything in Walt Disney World is about story, and maybe let's talk about how and why this came to be in the first place, the Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater.
Sure. Well, this was really part of the first real expansion of the studios. After when studios opened in 1989, there were a few attractions and a few restaurants opened right from the beginning. But as early as 1990, you see some expansion. Star Tours opens in December of '89, and the opening of New York Street and the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie set adventure. All those open right around there in 1989, 1990. And with this expansion of the park and opening up of some sections of the park, they decided that they needed more places to eat. The anticipated crowds, they needed more food service places. And so, like with a lot of places at Walt Disney World, they'll have a couple of restaurants actually share a kitchen. And this is what happened at the Sci-Fi. The commissary, the ABC commissary there, and the Sci-Fi actually share a kitchen, or the kitchens are conjoined, so to share services and things like that. But so you have the Sci-Fi opening in 1991 as a part of this first real expansion of the studios. And the restaurant's located at the end of Commissary Lane there. So you have the commissary and the Sci-Fi kind of conjoined. At the very end, you have the Sci-Fi. So if you walk from the Great Movie Ride there, in that back alley, you have the commissary and the Sci-Fi. And the Sci-Fi is located on stage 14. So it keeps with that theming of being the studios, but then you also have this exterior marquee that introduces you to what you think is a movie theater, but actually a restaurant based upon that.
Yeah, and when you walk into the theater through the double doors, it's sort of almost off-putting to people because you expect that you're walking into this theater, and really what you see is this sort of, backstage kind of movie set with scaffolding and plywood and things like that, and some cool props up around the corners. And you've got this check-in booth, which would sort of be something like you'd see if you went by, you were sort of driving into a drive-in theater. But again, that sort of keeps in, like you said, with the idea that, remember, the studios are sort of broken up into two areas. There's the on-stage area in the front, and then there's sort of the backstage area. You can see sort of that division where you hit Commissary Lane on one side and where you hit the Backlot Express on the other side where the security booths are. You can see that you are going really backstage, and that sort of, so it fits in that idea that you are on the backlot of this real working movie set somewhere.
Yeah, I love that. I love that it's a mixture of the two themes, and it just comes right at you. You have the ticket booth, which represents, the drive-in movie, but it's actually set in front of the scaffolding, like you said. And if you really look at the details there, you'll see it's marked like a movie set. It's just like the name is just stamped on there, and you really get a lovely blend of those two themes.
Yeah, and if you look around very carefully, and I haven't been there in a while, I have to see if these things are still there. If you look up and around, obviously there are movie posters for some of the films that you were going to see when you get inside, but you'll also find some props. You'll find some old-style drive-in movie speakers. Is the bowl of eyeballs still there, do you know?
I don't really recall the bowl of eyeballs. I think maybe that was there when it first opened, and I'm not sure if it really lasted.
Because as I was doing my research and going through some of my old pictures, I'm like, I don't remember so just to fill you in, up on one of the beams up above the check-in stand, as part of the scaffolding, there was a clear bowl of what looks like giant blue eyeballs that you'd find on some of those like googly-eyed glasses somewhere. But yeah, that very well may have disappeared. I have to go on a research trip, obviously.
Yeah, I think mainly what they've got there are just basically things that you would find backstage of a soundstage. You've got, you've obviously got a ladder. You've got just different things that you would use to tear that stuff down. You do have the movie posters for a few of the films that are showing, or at least the trailers are showing within the theater there. But it's really kind of there's not a whole lot there. One of the things that that everyone pretty much notices is the ticket booth, and then right next to it is a stop sign that says speed limit 5 miles per hour. Please wait to be seated. And it's if you look at what the stand is for the sign, it's actually an old white wall tire that is holding the sign in place. So, giving you that air or that aura of actually, being a part of this drive-in.
Yeah, exactly. And the theming sort of carries over. So when you check in for your reservation, you'll have to wait, maybe a couple of minutes. There's two entrances really to this, almost call it like a queue area, the waiting area. One is from Commissary Lane. The other is from the writer's stop, which is adjacent. And if you walk into the writer's stop through those swinging, very basic double doors, you see that idea that you are sort of in a backstage coffee house almost carries over into there. And if you actually want to go and walk around the writer's stop, the hostess will come in, at least in my experience, maybe I don't know if they do this anymore. They'll come into the writer's stop and look for you and find you there in case you're using your time in there to wait.
Yeah, that actually opened while I was working there. They didn't. That door was not original. They actually constructed that door in 1996, and it was actually Ellen's by the book at that time,
right.
based on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and that's actually gave us a lot of relief because mid-time, the lunch rush there, and at dinner you would have 40, 50 people trying to stay within that small area, or moving out into the street. You had to, move between them there. And if you were on skates, you were, excuse me, pardon me, ma'am.
I didn't want to ask you how many 5-year-old kids tried to trip you on the skates too as well.
I got pretty good at walking on the stoppers on the end. So yeah.
Well, and when you do get called to go and sit in your seat, and I put seat sort of in air quotes, you're led down this very sort of dark hallway, again, sort of in that idea that you are backstage into a room that's even kind of darker once you get there. But that's when you sort of get the big reveal. And this, for you especially as a host, must be great. And I like taking first-timers there when they get this big reveal of the giant movie screen on one side and palm trees all around and this incredible night sky that really gives you the sense that you are outside. And instead of tables, there are rows and rows, maybe 40 or so, of convertibles.
Exactly. It's they describe it as an otherworldly ambiance, something you don't expect. And that actually goes all the way back to when they were first designing it. They wanted to give people that outdoor summer nighttime feel, no matter what the weather was like outside. And so it's this very controlled environment where you go in and like you said, that's a great place to show people who've never been there, just to walk down there and look in. And we had people all the time, we'd walk in and say, hey, can I, do you have a priority seating? They'd be like, oh, we just want to look. And lots of people would go down and just peek their head in there and they'd just be amazed. And just turn and look at this giant 40-foot screen and all these people sitting in those cars and inside in the dark eating. It's just an amazing sight.
Yeah, it's you get the sense that you walked, outside in the dark, no matter, like you said, what time of day it is. And if you didn't know or ever have experienced a drive-in movie theater, this is sort of a microcosm of what you would have found. The big screen surrounded by the palm trees, the cars with the speakers on the side. In the back, across from the screen, you would find the snack bar, quote unquote, which really was the entrance to the kitchen. And if you looked up, you got these twinkling stars. So really, this is why I like this restaurant and wanted to sort of do this segment too, because it is a great example of Imagineering and the use of theming when it comes to one of the dining experiences.
Yeah, and if you really want to take this a step further, that feel inside the restaurant is an architectural style called atmospheric architecture. And it basically lets the visitors think they're outside while they're indoors. And it's a take on a painting technique called atmospheric perspective that really gives you the feel that there is a lot more around than there really is. And so you walk into this, that place could be, 50 yards long or 1,000 yards long, but you'd never know just because of the forced perspective of the mural of the hills. And, it's framed great by the fence that goes around that keeps the cars in. And it's just awesome to see.
Yeah, and if you are a photography enthusiast, there are so many great opportunities for good shots in there because of the use of lighting. And, let's talk about the tables, which really are cars. There's 3 different kinds of cars. There's I think there's a 3-row car that has room for 2 adults in each row. There is a 2-row car, and there's also sort of picnic tables with umbrellas in the back.
Yeah, and those are called table and chair cars. The last cars that you mentioned, and they're great because they are, they're perfect seating for any guest. So if you have anyone with disabilities, they can sit there just like everyone else. Or it's great to get a seating that day. So I mean, if you walk in and you don't have a priority seating, go straight back to the restaurant right when the park opens, and they'll basically give you that table later that day. They won't actually put those tables in the reservation system. That's one little tip there. But yeah, they've got all these different cars that they created. And I think when they were throwing around this, they were like, do we want it to be a car that is a table or a table that is a car? And so they came up with, all these different ideas. And I think the earliest concept painting actually came out prior to the studios. And if you look, there's like 4 or 5 different types of cars within this early concept painting, and the cars look a little different. They're a little more menacing. They have almost like scary looking monster or muscle cars with like scary grills and giant fins. But they have some of them that are facing each other, some of them that don't have rows, some of them that are just like a car. And I think they kind of toyed with this idea early on, but what they came up with was an original idea was to make these the rows of seats actually like rows and bench seating in a vehicle.
Yeah, and it makes sense because this is how you would be seated if you really were going to a drive-in movie. If you're taking your family and mom and dad and the 2.5 kids in the back seat. So that works out well. And the interesting thing, too, is it's a lot of fun, especially for families. Usually mom and dad sit up front. If the kids are old enough, they're sitting in the back, much like you would if you were driving to the theater. It doesn't necessarily make for great conversation if you're going with your family. If you're sitting in, if you're looking for maybe a party of 4 and you guys want to actually talk, because you're allowed to talk because it's a drive-in, you would sit at one of the picnic tables. Otherwise, you'll all be sort of facing forward. So, dad sitting up front would literally have to turn around and go, if you guys don't quit it, I'm going to turn this car around, or, whatever it is that we say to our kids in the back of the car.
Exactly. Well, I'm kind of unique because I have a family of 3. So it's kind of difficult because when we would, we've taken our young son once, and they said, do you want to squeeze into one or do you want 2? And it was actually kind of late in the day, and I was like, oh, I definitely want 2. Because one of us is going to get a break.
Now, let me ask you this. If you have a party of 2 and they go and sit in one of the cars and another party of 2 comes in, they would sit that other party sort of in the same quote-unquote car with you?
Sure, because you're not actually interacting with with other guests at all if you don't want to, and the servers actually have some fun with that. They'll when they do seat the car, the hosts or hostesses will come through and they'll seat the cars, and they'll seat 2 people in the front and 2 people in the back. And sometimes there's a party of 4, and then they'll seat 2 people behind them in the back row, and the host will kind of have fun with that, and they'll say, hey, you got some hitchhikers back there in the back. What are you guys going to have to drink? And maybe these guys up here will pick up your bill,
Right, chip in for a little gas money. And
Exactly. It was kind of fun, and then the servers will actually give out, little driver's licenses to younger guests, and they always thought that was very cool. And that's something that I like to do when I work there, was go around and do that and kind of play it up as much as possible. And then the person that's sitting in the front and the left side is always the driver, so they're referred to as the driver, and it's pretty fun.
And that's what I mean, what I said at the intro about sort of the cast members making this experience. It's sort of like 50s prime time when you get these waitresses or these car hops on roller skates coming by, and they totally get into character, making you think like you're sitting there in the 50s, been transported to another place in time, much like you do at prime time, and they talk to you. You're in that front left position. You are the driver, and and they treat you that way. And I was going to ask you if they still did the driver's licenses as well.
Yeah, they did. Actually, my son got one last December when we were there. So it was pretty cool. And he was 3 years old, so he was all about that. He thought that was the coolest thing. So, one of his favorite attractions is Autopia, just because he gets to drive, and he's big into cars and Herbie and all that. So it was awesome.
Yeah. If just a tip while I'm thinking about it, if you have a child that's in a high chair, don't really think these seats are going to be the ones that are conducive for you. Again, you probably have to go back to the picnic tables in the back. But it's all about the detail. And one of the things you have to do when you go into sci-fi is obviously take your time and look around. And you can wander around a little bit too. If you look closely at the cars, at the license plates, oftentimes throughout Walt Disney World, you'll find these very cryptic initials and numbers, and 9 times out of 10, they probably reflect the Imagineer's birthday or their daughter's birthday or their office number or initials or whatever it is. But if you look closely as well, too, you'll find that, and this sort of carries over into the theme of the film that's playing, that most of the states, and Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, are places like Arizona, New Mexico, California, which is going to go to the backstory. But these are states where a lot of UFO sightings were reported, especially in this time of the drive-ins in the late 50s.
Yeah, that's exactly what they told us on our first day. They said, this isn't a place. So when you see the cars out here, they've got different license plates, but the license plates represent different places where UFOs have been sighted. And I thought, what? But then, being older and appreciating all of the detail that goes into it much more than I did then, now it totally makes sense that they would do that. The cars themselves are actually quite unique too. They were all built from scratch. And they didn't take an existing car or do anything. So all these cars are nondescript in terms of their make and model. But they did use some car parts in it. And really, one of the best part is the car's upholstery. And in shopping and looking around, they actually found some what car people refer to as new old stock. And new old stock is basically when you find groups that are shops that manufacture new products that look just like old ones. So, new steering wheels that look like, a 1957 Chevy. And so they found the upholstery that would actually match the consistency of upholstery back then. And they also used the same colors as well. So they found colors that were, popular in the 1950s. So some teals and some oranges and things like that to actually paint the cars with.
Yeah, you totally get a sense, especially when you get that first reveal. You're like, wow. You almost get the sense that you're looking at real cars until you start getting closer and see that they're sort of loose-sized and they're shrunk down. And you can see those influences from the Chevys and from the Caddies and things like that. And my dad and mom, who grew up in this time, were like, yeah, this is what it looked like. This is definitely what it looked like. You definitely do get the sense, though, that, again, and because you're talking about those license plates being from those parts of the United States, you are, like you said, you are at a specific place. This is not sort of meant to be just a generic drive-in movie theater. You are clearly supposed to be in a Southern California drive-in theater, again, which sort of ties in with the fact that you're at Disney's Hollywood Studios, which would probably be located in Southern California.
Exactly, and that's what I used to say to people when they were seated, was that, welcome to our magical soundstage where you're going to be whisked back to the Hollywood Hills of the 1950s. And that's right when the big reveal would be, and they'd walk through the fence out in there. And for guests that had never been there, they would actually stop, like I said, and kind of look around for a second and be like, where am I? This is awesome.
Yeah, and the show really begins for them the second they pass through that threshold. That's where that sort of that portal really happens and that transformation takes place. But, we talked about this being dinner or lunch and a show, and clearly the biggest appeal and the biggest laugh probably for people comes from the film, this film loop that's playing on the screen in front of you. That's a compilation of not just movie trailers from some of the worst B movies and alien and monster movies, but a lot of cool newsreels that sort of show the future that was predicted back in the late 50s. There's some cartoons. There's a few little cameos in there as well. And like you'd see in a movie theater, you've got commercials for the snack bar. Again, I'm thinking back to Danny, sitting in Greece.
The same clip actually plays. The one where the hot dog jumps into the bun. It's the same one. It's awesome. Yeah, but the clips, like you say, they're almost like unintentionally funny. It's like you get the sense that these were actually like films that, and it's almost like it's an awkward moment where should I laugh? Should I be laughing at this? Because this is actually a popular film at one time. So you have films like, Plan 9 from Outer Space and The Amazing Colossal Man and The Horror of Beach Party. And you've got all of these, movies today that you would never, ever expect to be made.
I've got Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster on Blu-ray. I'm just saying.
You got that?
I'm the guy. They got it right. The one guy.
No. These are all Mystery Science Theater 3000 films,
But and there's cartoons too. There's cartoons in there. There's the cat that hated people. There's a Tom and Jerry cartoon in there. There's also a Disney character that makes a cameo in there as well.
Yeah, this Donald Duck. Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great film as well. If you have the Disney Treasures DVD with Tomorrowland, they actually have that specific short. I don't know the name of it, but it's basically about Martians taking over Earth. But in doing that, they go to Mars and find out the creatures that are there. It's pretty cool. You talked about the futuristic newsreels. One of my favorite ones is of the video phone. Just a lady sitting there at the screen, and the screen, is about 4 by 5, and it's like got rounded corners like an old television.
Right.
And at the end, it's like, but you don't have to wait till 1957 to get this. It's actually really cool. And then they have another thing was some pseudo like music videos too. Right. I think Flying Purple People Eater is another one. And they show different clips from cartoons. But I think my favorite part of that is actually when Walt Disney comes on the screen.
Yeah, there's a you're talking about the Garco and Walt,
yes,
from the Mars and Beyond film from 1957, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm. And you can that's a clip that they also showed, if you remember, back in the Space Mountain Q and SMTV.
Right.
Yeah, President Garco addressing Earth. So yeah, I love that part. But what's really cool about this is kind of like, we talked about the age of drive-ins and in the 1950s, and really all these movies are really the culmination of the atomic age and the space age coming together. And really like the fears of like radiation or a nuclear war and this new this renewed interest in space and the world beyond. And at this time we really had this fear of the unknown, and that's why the two most popular genres of movies that came out in the 1950s were sci-fi movies and westerns. And so this really capitalizes on sci-fi movies, and we feared the unknown, and by unlocking the secrets of the atom and simultaneously venturing beyond the realm of our own planet, we created this genuine fear that movie makers at that time really capitalized upon by creating these science fiction films. But the problem lies in that the budgets for these movies were so small that we look back and we laugh at their attempts, because they didn't pretend to be suspenseful. There were scary movies made in the 40s and 50s. You go back and you watch a Hitchcock movie and it's still relatively scary. These didn't pretend to be suspenseful at all. Instead, they showed us what they thought monsters and aliens really looked like, and so we can look back and laugh at their cheap special effects and bad acting that went along with it.
Right, but there was this legitimate fear that people had, and you're talking about the Roswells and all these UFO sightings. So when Invasion of the Saucer Men and Robot Monster came out, that was sort of playing on the hysteria of the time. That was, like you said, mixed with that idea of that fun sense of futurism that was going on as well.
Yeah, so I kind of wonder, were these films that people really were scared at, or did they laugh at back then like we do today? Because, when you see like the hokey costumes and you see like, Robot Monster and the giant Gila monster, like, going across, it's probably going at like, half a mile an hour across the beach, and all these, teenagers are running scared. It's, were they films that were just kind of like hokey, or were they actually scary? Because, one of my favorite films is Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1956, which is not really a monster movie. It's more of a psychological thriller, and it really doesn't fit into this particular realm of films. But, I just wonder what people thought when they saw these films. Did they laugh like we did, or were they really genuinely afraid?
I think there was a legitimate fear of the devil girl from Mars. Because
right.
Somebody at a studio green-lighted that film. Was like, yeah, this is going to be a hit. This is going to be huge.
That's awesome. Is that the one where they need women? And,
Mars needs women, right?
Exactly.
So
very good.
The great thing about the films is that there is no beginning or end. There is no showtime to see. It's just a loop. It runs, about 47 minutes or something like that. So chances are, no matter when you get there for your meal, you'll be able to see the whole thing. And again, not something that you need to or probably want to watch from beginning to end anyway.
Yeah, and that was one of the popular questions that we would get working there was, what time does the film start? And so it basically became like a rehearsed speech that you gave that, well, there is no film. It's a running loop of trailers and cartoons and newsreels from the 1950s that go along with the theme of science fiction. But it was very, people were excited then because they said, oh, you can sit whenever? Oh, yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. And the fact that there was only, they saw the whole thing, they're done, they're ready to go. So, but obviously, Nate, people are going in there not for necessarily the entertainment, they're going in to eat, they're going in for the food. And for a long time, I think, as good as the theming was for the restaurant, sometimes the food had a bad reputation. I heard people saying, well, it's kind of counter service food at table service prices. Other people really liked the menu. I have friends who are like, hey, you can get flavored Coke there like you could in the 50s. So that's reason enough to go in. And obviously the menu over the years has changed just a little bit. And I'm going to do sort of a companion live restaurant review with this show at some point. But I'll just quickly go over some of the things you can get because it is more than just sort of burgers and fries. There's a lot of different appetizers like chili and spinach artichoke dip, onion rings, which I actually really like. And for entrees, you've got steak and shrimp pasta. You've got a beef and blue salad, tofu, St. Louis-style ribs, a grilled chicken sandwich, Reuben, lots of different desserts. Obviously, you're in the studios, so you can get beers and wines, and there's a bunch of cosmic concoctions where you can get the souvenir glow globe. So you can get a lunar landing, a comet, a Space Invaders, a space monkey, an orbiting Oreo shake with Godiva chocolate liqueur. That's worth the price of admission right there. So there is a lot to choose from. But did you sort of get that same sense for a while that, and I think still now, sci-fi kind of has a bad rap?
Yeah, the stigma that goes with sci-fi is, awesome experience, food, meh.
Right.
It's But if you're not into that, you can always go and just have a milkshake.
Right.
Stop in for dessert. They have great desserts, just like every place does. Has great desserts at Walt Disney World, I think. But it's some place where you can stop in just in the afternoon. And like I said, there are tables that they have that they don't seat for reservations. The picnic tables in the back and the table and chair cars in the middle. You don't have to have a priority seating for. You just have to be sure and get them early. But that's another tip.
Yeah, and now I may be losing my mind in my old age, but years ago, did they used to serve like a little basket of popcorn when you first sat down?
They did.
Okay.
Actually, by the time I worked there, they'd actually stopped, and people had asked, where's the popcorn? And I would have to say, well, they don't serve it anymore. But I never worked there when they did. But when they first opened, they actually did, and it was just so messy. Apparently, was that you'd have to have somebody come by and sweep through, just because you want it to look like a drive-in. You don't want it to look like a bunch of cars parked on a bed of popcorn.
Right.
So, and popcorn is one of those things that, you drop a couple, you're not even going to notice. And so they would end up going between the cars and end up on the floor. And so your table turnover time was affected by that. And so to get more people in and have them get to experience it, they actually stopped doing the popcorn a couple of years after it opened.
Well, to sort of counter the bad reputation for food and maybe to highlight another great point about the restaurant, back in 2004 when the Disney magazine was out, this actually won the Reader's Choice Award for the best restaurant for kids. And I think that's one of the things that is a big appeal about this restaurant still to this day is it is a great place to take your kids because they'll lose their mind that they're sitting in the car and seeing all these. I mean, they'll have a great laugh at the films that are on the screen.
Yeah, it's awesome, especially little boys that are into cars. My son just flipped out when he found out that he was actually going to be sitting in the front seat of the car and be able to sit there alongside other cars. Thought it was just awesome.
Yeah, I took my kids a couple of years ago. They liked it. I mean, they were actually watching the film intently, like they weren't scared. They weren't like, oh, this is silly. I watch, better things on TV now. And like you said, they actually really love the peanut butter chocolate cake for dessert. I think that's why we sat there for so long. I think, like we said before, if you're going with a large group, this is probably not the best place to go. If you're going with maybe a group of, maybe 6 or more, probably not the best. But if you're a family of 4, even maybe a family of 5, this is really a fun dining experience.
Yeah, very fun.
I think, like we said at the beginning, I think this, when you look at sort of these themed dining experiences around Walt Disney World, especially in the theme parks, I think this is sort of the quintessential mix of Disney Imagineering and theming, really sort of at its best. And I think that's why sci-fi dining continues to be so popular, despite maybe the reputation for food, which, again, I want to sort of do a review of the food while we're there to see if it's still warranted, but I think it's still a great experience. It's almost like an attraction in and of itself over at the studios.
Yeah, I would argue that the studios actually has the best selection of restaurants when it comes to great theming and the experience that you get between the Primetime, the Brown Derby, the Mama Melrose, and the Sci-Fi. I put those as the best, maybe not the best restaurants, but the best, theming when you come to have a good time and experience a show and experience, cast member interaction. They're just great.
Absolutely. 50s Primetime is by far one of my favorite dining experiences. Again, I think California Grill might have the best food, but overall, because it's interactive, and I think that's something that the studios does a great job of bringing to you. All these restaurants that you mentioned transport you to a different time and a different place, and I think they're so very well done. Of course, now I'm starving for a Cobb salad from Brown Derby. Despite the fact that it's midnight when we're recording this.
That's right.
So,
okay.
What I'd love to hear, Nate, is I'd love to hear other people's opinions and reviews if they've had a chance to go to Sci-Fi Dine-In. If not, if this maybe encourages you to go, I'd love to hear what you think afterwards. To find more Nate Parrish, you can go and visit betamouse.net. You can also visit wedwayradio.com.
That's right, wedwayradio.com for a podcast that my brother and I have done for almost 2 years now. Wedway Radio looks at the really like the history side of Disney. We look at different eras. We look at projects like the 1964 World's Fair, do a lot of episodes on that.
Awesome. Definitely a good listen to. Nate, you got to come back. We got to do this again.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on.
After due consideration and thorough calculation, it is my unequivocal opinion that there is absolutely no life on the planet Mars.
That's going to do it for this week's show. I'm going to make this outro very quick because, as you can tell, I am fighting a flu and I don't want to put you through having to hear me sound like this. Don't forget, I want the show to be interactive. Please email me at lou@wdwradio.com. If you want to be heard on the air, you can call the voicemail at 888-703-2171. Be sure and come by and visit the website over at WDWradio.com. There you can sign up for our newsletter. You can connect with me and the show through Twitter and Facebook. Talk with other Disney fans in our fun, family-friendly discussion forums. Read our blog posts. Check out our photos, videos, and so much more. Be sure and tune in to the WDW newscast every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Or if you can't catch the live video broadcast and interactive chat where we discuss this week's news, you can always check them out on youtube.com/WDW Radio. I also have to take a quick second and express my sincere gratitude to all of you that went out and voted for the show over at the Podcast Awards. I found out the other night that WDW Radio was voted Best Travel Podcast for 2010. Of course, that is all thanks to and because of and for you. And I am truly, truly grateful to all of you who have listened to the show since episode 1, to those of you who have just found the show recently, and again, to everybody that took the time to go out daily and vote for the show. It means a lot to me, and it shows truly that you guys are all my friends. So thank you very much for doing that. I also want to congratulate all the other shows that were nominated in the category as well. I was truly honored to be mentioned alongside them. They all put out a great show each week, so my congratulations and thanks go out to them as well. Don't forget our upcoming Meets of the Month in Walt Disney World. Next month, January's meet is going to be over Marathon Weekend. Most likely, we're going to follow tradition, have it on Saturday after the half marathon at the Tomorrowland Terrace Noodle Station in the afternoon, probably around 1 or 2 o'clock. Visit DisneyMeets.com for details. I'll also post a link to the Facebook event page as well. February's meet is most likely going to be the weekend before we leave on the Disney Dream. That'll probably be February 26th. I'll have more details as we get closer. March's meet might be the week when we come back from the Disney Dream Cruise. Haven't finalized details as yet. Again, stay tuned to DisneyMeets.com for more information. Thanks as always to my partners and sponsors, including MouseFan Travel. They're my official and recommended travel provider for all your vacation planning needs. All-Star Vacation Homes has more than 150 homes within just a couple of miles of Walt Disney World. You can visit them over at allstarvacationhomes.com. And the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin still is Santa's favorite resort. Lots of special holiday events going on right up until Christmas, including an elf tuck-in on Christmas Eve. You don't need to be staying at the resort in order to take advantage of a lot of things they have going on there. Visit santasfavoriteresort.com for more information. If you're interested in joining us on our Adventures by Disney trip the week before the D23 Expo in 2011, it is going to take place August 14th through the 19th. Perfect tour and timing for D23 Expo attendees. The Backstage Magic Tour includes going backstage over at Jimmy Kimmel Live, a tour of the Jim Henson Company studio, private tours of Walt Disney Imagineering and the Walt Disney Studios, a private tour of some of Hollywood's famous landmarks, behind the scenes over at Disneyland, a tour of the El Capitan Theater. We're going to meet a puppeteer over at Jim Henson's Creature Shop, have a character breakfast at Disneyland, have some other VIP experiences, and of course, a few surprises as well. I'll put a link in the show notes. This event is almost completely sold out. We have reserved the entire Adventures by Disney, so it is just going to be a group of WDW Radio listeners. If you are interested, again, just a couple of spots left. I'll put a link in this week's show notes for more information. Of course, there's lots more to come in 2011 as I'm working on other projects and products and a few surprises that I'll be announcing over the next few weeks and months. Definitely, please stay tuned. And in this holiday season, no matter what or how you celebrate, I want to give you my sincerest best wishes for a very, very happy holiday to be spent with friends and family. And thank you all for giving me the gift of being able to share what I love with you each and every week. As always, guys, if you like the show, please help spread the word. Let others know about it. And most of all, I hope that you guys are inspired to take those first steps towards pursuing your passion and following your dream. And once you do, always keep moving forward. Thanks again for taking the time to tune in this and every week. So until next time, see ya.
He's too much.
Good evening, Lou. It's Justin again from Ardsley, New York. and I hope you wish you a very happy 200th episode of your podcast of the WDW Radio Show. I really gotta say, it's another huge milestone since the last 100 episodes, so this is gonna be even better. I just listened to your Epcot Center retrospective, and you mentioned with Ryan Wilson that the two songs of Energy You Make the World Go Round and The Universe of Energy is that you kind of missed out on. It is still out for the Happiest Celebration on Earth, and if you have the Happiest Celebration on Earth official album, you'll have those two songs so that you don't have to miss it. But the regular Universe of Energy, the instrumental and the ambient is still in the Universe of Energy. So I kind of love those two back in '82, and I really absolutely enjoy the two songs, and I still have them with me and my albums, which is part of my Walt Disney World album and collection, so that you could hear those two again, like in the past. So I hope you enjoy your 200th episode, and of course could hear more of your WDW newscast every Wednesday, 7:30. All right, Lou, have a good night, and good luck to your 200th episode on Sunday. See ya real soon.
Hey, Lou, Jonathan Harville, JJ Harville on Twitter, calling you from Birmingham, Alabama. This is my first time to call, and I'm calling to congratulate you on your 200th episode. I just finished it, and I absolutely loved it. Thank you for all that you do, and I hope to meet you someday, Lou. See ya.
Hi, Lou. This is Gary Z from Staten Island. Been a long listener to your show. It's a fantastic show. Just listened to your 200 episode. Very good. Excellent. Reminiscing down memory lane there. Just want to say you got a great show. My daughters even love it. Sometimes they even call you Uncle Lou. It's great. I mean, what you have given to the listeners is fantastic. All these little hidden gems that I never knew before are in front of me now because of your show. Thank you so much. Thank you for the 200 shows. Thank you for all the information you give us. You have a great day, and you have one of the great podcasts out there. You're the best. All right, Lou, you take care of yourself. And looking forward to another 200 or more episodes. Take care, Lou. Bye now.
Lou, Ronnie B. in Birmingham, Alabama. Congrats on your 200th show. Sorry I'm late on the call. My favorite part of your show, rather, is the interviews that you do. And all the magical interviews that you've had on your podcast. I would definitely have to say that number 34, or episode number 34, is my favorite. When you interviewed Ron Schneider, the original Dreamfinder character in the parks. Just the fact that he was listening to the podcast prior to that episode and contacted you was cool enough, and I think that says a lot about the show that you put on every day or every week. And just my personal memories of meeting the Dreamfinder and Figment in the park go back very far to the mid-'80s. And if there's any chance you could do a follow-up interview with him, I think that'd be fantastic. Just to talk a little bit more about what he did, and that's awesome. But I will hopefully get to see you and meet you around March or April. Family's planning a trip, and I'm planning on being down there. Thanks for what you do, Lou. I enjoy the podcast every week.
Hey, Lou, this is Emily Collins. I just wanted to congratulate you on your 200th episode. See ya.
Hi, Lou. It's me, Tammy, Voyage of Ariel, and I just wanted to say congratulations on your 200th show. I've been listening to your shows for 8 months, and I've almost listened to all the episodes. I'm still working on it, and my first one, I don't remember what top 10 it was, but it was a top 10 with Tim Foster, and that's what really got me hooked, because you two are just so funny, and it's just been so wonderful just listening to you, present Disney news and interviews and such like this. And I really want to thank you because, you give me my daily dose of Disney every day, and my family enjoys it as well. And it will only be 3 more months until we meet on the cruise. And it won't even be a year since I first discovered WDW radio when I meet you. So this is going to be so much fun. And no matter what you say, Lou, you're going to do some karaoke because it's going to be my birthday on February 26th. So, and that's like the night before we go on the cruise. So you're going to do some karaoke, okay? I think you should sing Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Ain't No Valley Low, okay? Okay. Anyways, okay. So I hope you have a great Christmas, and tell Deanna and the kids I said hi, okay? And congrats again on your 200th show. Bye, everybody.
Hi, Lou. It's Darlene Nagy from Buffalo, New York. Can't wait for the cruise. I'm getting excited. And congratulations on the 200th episode. It is awesome. Loving watching you in the box. I, for some reason, can't get into the chat room, and I'm really sorry about that. But I have to say, having you guys on, you alone, sharing, your experiences of the parks and Disney World, and with the guest appearances of all of, the Sherman Brothers and Jim Corcus and just everybody, and having like the group team meetings that you have, and just having us Fox people there it brings Disney World into my life, and I absolutely love hearing it, and it makes me feel like I'm there when I'm really back here in the deep snows of Snowtown, USA, Buffalo, New York, at right this moment. So thank you for all of you do. It's great. Love having you and Becky on, sharing what we need to learn about for things changing at Disney. It's awesome. Thank you so much once again for all you do. Looking forward to going on the WDW radio cruise with you and all my Deck 7 cool kids. Can't wait. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Hey, Lou, just wanted to wish you congratulations on your 200th show, and we love it. Keep up the work, Tim in Swanee, Georgia. Hey, Lou, this is Jeff Mowat from McAllen, Alabama. My wife and kids and I are going to be headed down to Disney World here later this week. This is the third consecutive Christmas season that we've had the opportunity to visit the parks. It's become somewhat of a Christmas tradition for the family. It's also become somewhat of a tradition for us to surprise our kids with a trip in a special way. The first year, we loaded them into the car and pretended like we were taking them to school and put in a DVD into the car DVD player. My wife's a teacher, and she had talked Santa Claus into going on camera when he was at her school doing pictures with the kids. So our kids got to hear it straight out of Santa's mouth that they were going to Disney World right then. So we literally pulled out the driveway and headed south. Last year, I made another DVD with a Disney trivia game that I'd personalized for the kids. When they won the game, they got an early Christmas present. It was luggage with plane tickets inside for the next day, so they had a little more notice that time. This year, we wanted to let them know about it a little earlier, and we wanted to raise the bar with how we told them. So on the first Saturday in October, we had the first annual Mowat Family Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. We started at 8 in the morning and finished at about 8:30 that night. We had face painting and we had pumpkin painting. We had a hidden Mickey contest using digital cameras and Mickeys in and around our house. We ate Pecklesville burgers for lunch and miniature turkey legs, i.e. chicken legs for dinner. To cap off the night, we watched our home video of last year's trip. But this version of the video was a little different from what they'd seen before. At the end, I built a trailer with some still pictures and sound effects from the Wilderness Lodge. And it ended with the words coming December 2010. So that's how we told them this year. It's pretty much a whole day affair, and the whole day is chronicled on YouTube if you ever get really bored. I also just wanted to say congratulations on your 200th show. I really enjoy the show. I love how informative and especially how family-friendly it is. I can turn it on and let my kids listen to it with no problems. I always look forward to it at the first of every week. I only wish your 200th show would have fallen 1 week later because we'll be in the parks the following weekend. I've been really disappointed that I'm going to miss out on that. But anyway, just wanted to thank you for the show and ask you to keep up the good work. And just want to congratulate you on the 200th show. Thanks a lot, Luke. See you.